Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Langer at the Mic Live, where today we had the weekend off without hockey, without Montreal Canadiens hockey. The NHL playoffs have already started this weekend with a handful of very exciting games. But I wanted to do an exercise here because before this season started, before the Habs 2021 season started, I predicted the goals, assists, and points for all of the Habs' top 9 forwards and Shea Weber and Jeff Petrie and Carey Price prior to the beginning of the season. I predicted what they would be over the course of the 2021 season. So today, I want to review those predictions and just see where I was right and where I was wrong. I just feel like this is a very honest exercise because it's great. It's obviously, I'm not always right. Very often I'm wrong, but it's also nice to see where I'm right and where I'm wrong. So I just feel like it's a very good, exercise to judge myself and see where I was right and where I was wrong. And again, I'm going to include the link to that show that I did before the night before the beginning of the 2021 season. You could check that out. I'll include the link in the description below. But here it is, basically right over, this side over here, where I predicted all of the goals, assists, and points. And as you could see, I did predict that Nick Suzuki would lead the team in points this year. So let's go back and review how I did. So let's pull that up over here. Are my predictions right over here. So starting with Brendan Gallagher, I predicted that he would play 52 games, score 20 goals, have 14 assists, and have 34 points. So he did get injured, and I did these projections based on how these players have done over the course of the last couple of years and how they were trending. So I didn't really do too much advanced analytics or expected goals or anything like that. I just kind of looked at their tendencies, their points per game, and projected it based on this year, or based on what I thought it would be this year. So once again, you have Brendan Gallagher. He got injured this year, and he had only 14 goals, 9 assists, 23 points. So in terms of a pace, that is kind of the same, sort of, not really. I mean, the injury obviously messed things up, but hopefully, him and Carey Price are playing in a conditioning stint with the Laval Rocket tonight, so we'll see how they do tonight. But yeah, just essentially with Brendan Gallagher, the injury really affected his production, but in terms of his pace, he was kind of there, sort of, but pretty much a wash because of the injury. So let's call it a wash with Brendan Gallagher. With Thomas Tatar, this one's a little bit more accurate, as you can see. I'll leave them up over here. You just have to keep in mind my reverse left and right here. But yeah, in terms of Thomas Tatar, as you can see, I, kind of a little bit less than what I had predicted. I predicted 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points. And he ended up having 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points. So, a little bit less than what I predicted. I also did predict that he'd play a little bit more games. He did get injured a little bit there late in the season. He had times where he played really, really well, Danault and Gallagher, but he had a lot of times where he struggled. And I think towards the end of the season, he struggled mostly because of his lack of health. So that's Thomas Tatar. Phillip Danault, here's where Phillip Danault didn't have the same production that I thought that he would have. He had 9 goals, or I predicted that he would have 9 goals, 23 assists, 32 points, but he ended up having only 5 goals, 19 assists, 24 points. I think I had expected that he wasn't going to score a lot, and I was right on that, but I didn't expect him to go the first, 23 games without scoring a goal. So that's where I kind of messed it up, and that's where his season just didn't, the beginning of his season at least didn't go so well. But he picked up his play midway through the year and towards the end of the year, and he had some really great games of shutting down Austin Matthews, or not shutting down Austin Matthews, because Matthews did score a lot of goals against the Canadiens, but at least limiting Austin Matthews and limiting Connor McDavid. So, and getting a couple of really big goals later in the year, but not in terms of frequency, in terms of goal scoring, and in terms of overall production, not quite what I predicted. Now, this one's interesting. Nick Suzuki, I predicted that he would have 56 or play all 56 games, score 16 goals, 30 assists, and 46 points. And I was off by a little bit, but for all intents and purposes, I nailed this prediction, because Nick Suzuki ended up scoring 15 goals, so 1 less than I predicted, 26 assists, so just 4 less than I predicted, but still 41 points in 56 games, which is just about a roughly a 60-point pace in an 82 game season. Let me just confirm that. So 41 times 82 divided by 56. So yeah, exactly a 60-point pace in 82 if this was or an 82 game season. And I predicted I think about a 65-point pace, but Suzuki got a 60-point pace. So he didn't lead the team in points, which we'll get to why in a second or why in a bit, but I was pretty accurate that Suzuki would pick up his production. That's mostly because of the great start and the great finish that he had to the season. In the middle, he was slumping, wasn't at his best in the middle of the season. That was kind of like his phase of the sophomore slump there, but he really started off strong, really finished strong, and that's why he was able to produce at the level that he produced at. Now, Jonathan Drouin, let's be honest that again, I predicted 11 goals, 23 assists, 34 points, and I wasn't like crazy in terms of my predictions here, but I really over-predicted the amount of goals he would score. I mean, look, he struggled to score this year, plain and simple. He put up a lot of assists, 21 assists in 44 games, not terrible, but you also want to see 10 or so goals in that as well. So, but Drouin struggled to score this year. He really did, and like I said, just he took an indefinite personal leave of absence. So, and I've been on this channel more than once and quite often, just hoping, just wishing the best for Jonathan Drouin. Just Jonathan Drouin, come back to the Canadiens once you've dealt with what you're dealing with and when you're ready to contribute as a productive member of the Montreal Canadiens. But obviously, mental health and just the same way that Gallagher missed whatever many weeks he missed with his thumb injury, the same way Price missed time with his concussion, the same way Sherratt missed 6 to 8 weeks with his wrist injury, Jonathan Drouin needs to take all the time that he needs to deal with his mental health or whatever personal reasons he's dealing with, and it's not up to us to question what they are. So Jonathan Drouin, that's all that we can really hope for. All that Drouin has to do is just take care of himself first before he can come back and play hockey for the Montreal Canadiens. This is another interesting one here because I pretty much nailed this one here. Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson had notoriously only 4 goals in 2019-2020, mostly because of his injuries that year. So I predicted Josh Anderson would go 52 games, 17 goals, 11 assists, and 28 points. And he was pretty darn close to that this year. I nailed the 52 games. I nailed the 17 goals. Just the 7 assists and 24 points, a little bit off on that 24 compared to the 28 I predicted, which ended up being close to what Max Domi produced in Columbus this year. But again, Max Domi was a healthy scratch on numerous occasions, which is what it is with John Tortorella, and kind of also shows how he was playing in Columbus. But with the Montreal Canadiens, Josh Anderson, besides the games he missed due to injury, Josh Anderson, even though he wasn't scoring and was in a really bad slump to end the year, at least he was contributing from a physical standpoint, from a skating and hitting and leadership standpoint. So even though he wasn't scoring, he was still a very important member to this Montreal Canadiens forward group, Josh Anderson was. So, but I pretty much nailed his games and goals in my early season predictions. Now, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, this was a little bit of a disappointment, of course. I predicted 53 games, 9 goals, 21 assists, 30 points. Not crazy in terms of predictions or projections. And he didn't quite live up to that. So 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points. To me, the biggest thing with Jesperi Kotkaniemi was the fact that he did not shoot the puck effectively enough. You saw him try to shoot the puck more, but he just didn't do so effectively enough. He either missed the net or just didn't challenge goalies with his shot enough. That's why he only had 5 goals. And then later in the year, just his confidence, man. Ever since the Stahl acquisition, I would say from right around January up until basically the Stahl acquisition, maybe the numbers weren't quite there in terms of what you want to see from a first or second line center. But he was effective. He was good he was always been good on the forecheck. He was great at passing, great at setting guys up. I remember a particular moment. I forget which game it was, but I just know that It might have been against the Ottawa Senators, against the Calgary Flames, where the Habs needed a game-tying goal, where Kotkaniemi just fired a bullet cross-seam, thread-the-needle pass to Thomas Tatar in a 6-on-5 situation, but Thomas Tatar just had no idea that it was coming. But it was just a perfect pass by Jesperi Kotkaniemi that Tatar had no idea that it was coming. So Kotkaniemi definitely flashed those instances this year and even had a string of 10 or 15 games where he was playing really, really well. Particularly when he was with Tyler Toffoli and Josh Anderson, he was very effective. But then when Eric Staal came along and Kotkaniemi started playing not as excellent as he was in that really good stretch, well, then he started getting less ice time. He started losing his confidence, and as a result of getting less ice time, losing his confidence, he started playing not as well, and as a result of losing his confidence, losing his ice time, and not playing as well, he got less ice time, and that affected his confidence to where he had even less confidence and started playing even less effectively, to the point where when he had a 3-on-2 in Game 56 of the regular season with Corey Perry and who was on his other wing, Thomas Tatar, all he had to do, I mean, he had the chance to shoot, but he passed on the shot, literally, but he couldn't even complete his pass to Corey Perry, like a 10-foot pass. And that's where he ended up being late in the season. So Kotkaniemi was a big disappointment later in the year, but he showed what he is capable of, and he just lost the opportunities. And that's on coaching. And that's on the way Dominique Ducharme and Alex Burrows failed to develop not their third overall pick, because I don't know if they were the organization then, but the Montreal Canadiens at least failed to develop their third overall pick in the late part of the season. And now that he's on the fifth line with Michael Frolik and Cole Caulfield in practice this week, going into this first round series against the Leafs, well, that's concerning. That's not good, to say the least. And we're gonna talk about that later today. I'm gonna have another live stream later tonight with a couple of my Habs fan friends. So stay tuned for that here on Langer at the Mic. But yeah, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, not optimal production for sure. Tyler Toffoli, this one, I think none of us expected how good Tyler Toffoli was going to be. I predicted 51 games, 16 goals, 13 assists, 29 points. I predicted Josh Anderson would lead the team in goals, but it ended up being Tyler Toffoli with 28 goals, 16 assists, 44 points. If I were to give an MVP for this year, I would say it's a toss-up between Jake Allen or Tyler Toffoli. And I would give it to Tyler Toffoli because of his production. 28 goals, 44 points, 52 games. Great production by Tyler Toffoli. I don't think any of us really would have predicted that amazing production by Tyler Toffoli. And then Yoel Armia. I did the Habs top 9 forwards, and I think when I did this show, I wasn't sure that Corey Perry was going to fit into the top 9, and definitely Eric Staal wasn't close to being acquired yet. Also, Jake Evans, Paul Byron, and Arturi Lehkonen were on the fourth line, and I just focused on the top 9. So Yoel Armia was in the top 9 at the time. I predicted 40 games, 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points, and pretty much the same. 41 games, 7 goals, pretty much nailed the games, pretty much nailed the goals, and was close on the assists and points. I mean, Armia obviously had the COVID issue. He had a couple of injuries also, and I kind of predicted that he would, he wasn't the most durable player, he wasn't playing every single game in his last 2 seasons previously with the Habs, or last year or 2, previously with the Habs. So that's why I predicted a bit of a dip in his production, which happened, but also, again, with the COVID issue and the concussion earlier in the year, that's what happened with that. So those are my forward predictions. Essentially, I kind of got Gallagher kind of right, Tatar a little bit less than what I predicted. Dano way less than I predicted, or pretty much less than I predicted. Got Suzuki pretty much right. Drouin was a wash. Anderson I nailed. Kotkaniemi a little bit less than what I predicted. Toffoli way more than what I predicted. Kotkaniemi pretty much what I predicted. So, in terms of what I would grade myself, I would say maybe a B. Yeah, I would say a solid B in terms of my predictions here, just based on, just overall feel of what I got right and what I got wrong. So those are the forwards. And then also as a bonus, what I did is I also have the top 2 defensemen, Shea Weber and Jeff Petrie. So Shea Weber, I predicted that he would play 52 games, 13 goals, 15 assists, 28 points. When in reality, not even really close to that. 48 games, 6 goals, half as many goals, 13 assists, 19 points. I was pretty accurate on the assists, but he only scored less than half the goals than I had predicted, which, just shows that Shea Weber pretty much struggled this year. And to me, Shea Weber's struggles were mostly just because of how brutal the schedule was, also age, but also because of how brutal the schedule was. And I just believe that he was physically and mentally beat down by the end of the year, to which they finally, I don't know if they held him out for an actual injury or just because of load management, which I'd been preaching for the entire season, but he finally got his rest, and I'm hoping he'll be good to go by game 1 and for this playoff series, and maybe play as well as he did in the bubble last year. So that's Shea Weber. Jeff Petrie now. This was an impressive surprise here, or a good surprise. I predicted 55 games, 8 goals, 23 assists, 31 points, but he just smashed those expectations. 55 games, 12 goals, 30 assists, and 42 points this season. Again, beginning of the season, end of the season, was playing at a Norris Trophy level, but he struggled in the middle point of the season, much like Shea Weber and a lot of the guys did, because of how brutal the schedule was when they were playing 4 games a week for 6 to 8 weeks in a row for the first time in their careers. So Jeff Petrie just far exceeded my expectations for sure. Now, last but not least, I did do also a Carey Price projection. I did not do a Jake Allen projection. Where did I put that? It's over here. Yeah, there you go. So with Carey Price, I expected 38 games, 22 wins, a .919 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. And yeah, I missed on that one. I mean, a lot of that had to do with the injury issues, but also the fact that Price struggled early in the season. 25 games, only 12 wins, 1 shutout. Yeah, but he did have a really good month of March. He did have a fantastic month of March where right before the COVID break, he had a string of like 940 something save percentage, 1 shutout, 1.5, 1.6 something goals against average in the month of March. So Price again showed what he is capable of, but when his confidence wasn't there early in the season and when his health wasn't there late in the season, obviously he wasn't able to contribute or wasn't able to be as effective with the Montreal Canadiens. But again, on a conditioning stint tonight with the Laval Rocket, and I would say he's expected to get the start in game 1. We'll see where his health is at and where his psyche is at right now going into this first round series with the Leafs. So that's Carey Price, and I pretty much just missed on that. So and then last but not least, I gave a little bit more of a qualitative prediction of how that's the wrong one. Qualitative prediction of how the Habs would do this year. Let's just bring it up over here. That's the wrong one. Where is it? Winner. Yeah, this one. So, excuse me. It's at the very bottom here. So just let me drag it all the way to the top. There we go. Finally. So I predicted qualitatively that the Habs would win games because of good depth, balanced scoring, and yeah, just in terms of I predicted, I might have messed that up there with the X players. I forgot to put a number there, but I did expect Kotkaniemi and Suzuki to take the next steps in their development, which Suzuki did. Kotkaniemi almost did, but then didn't. And then they would win because of goaltending and also being solid on defense. I would say they won mostly because of Tyler Toffoli, Josh Anderson, Nick Suzuki really carrying them, Jeff Petrie also, and Jake Allen covering for Carey Price. So you could say solid goaltending there as well. But in terms of why they lost this year, I was dead on, qualitatively at least, because I said that they would lose games because of lack of star power, lack of goal scoring, which they did, and that they would break down on defense, which they did, and also more specifically Sherratt not being a good 2 and the 4 spot is a weakness. I would say it's because Sherratt, it was more because of Shea Weber not being a good 1 or not a good second defenseman than it was Sherratt being a good, than Sherratt not being effective. So anyway, it was more on Weber and also the bottom pairing, the inconsistency of the bottom pairing than it was Sherratt or Edmondson even, who I didn't think that, as I said there with 4 spot being a weakness, I thought that Edmondson wouldn't be as effective, but he was very effective. So so those were my predictions at least at the beginning of the year. And then also I predicted that they would lose because Price would play like he did in the regular season last year than in the bubble. And I was kind of right on that because Price's struggles did not help in several losses early this year. But again, in terms of Price's health, I would say Price's health is what limited him more for the later part of the year, and that affected the Habs season more than his lack of psyche or lack of mental being on his game mentally early in the year. So, but mostly the reason why the Habs lost games was because of the first 2 points, because of lack of goal scoring and just breaking down way too often defensively. So that was my qualitative projection for the Canadiens this year. And then in terms of my record, last but not least, my record prediction, here's my expectation. Yeah, there you go. Here's my expectation. 31, 18, and 7, 69 points, good for second in the North Division. But what ended up happening was 24, 21, and 11 record, 59 points, and fourth in the North Division. So I was a little bit rich on my projection. Okay, maybe a lot rich, but there you go. So in terms of my forwards predictions, I would say I'd give myself a B. Whereas in terms of my actual prediction versus the actual reality of how their season went, I would give myself probably about a C. Yeah, maybe about a C. Maybe, yeah, let's just say a C. 10 points less than what I predicted. So yeah, give me like a C or maybe even a C minus. Yeah, C minus. So that's pretty much it for, I just wanted to do this exercise here because, again, it's very important to, if you're going to be wrong, at least own up to when you are wrong. But also when you're right, celebrate and accept and enjoy the times that you are right. But also, again, admit when you are wrong. So that's why I wanted to do this exercise here on Langer at the Mic. Stay tuned for I got not one, but 2 Habs playoff preview shows that I'm planning to do tonight and tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that here on Langer at the Mic. As usual, give me a big thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section to think, whether you think I was really good or really bad with my predictions. Let me know in the comment section. And give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel here on Langer at the Mic. Give me a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Mike Langer for all 3. And thank you so much for tuning in to this episode or this edition of Langer at the Mic. And I look forward to seeing you next time, which will be later tonight and tomorrow night. So thank you for joining.